On this episode of Cape Media News, Cape Cod Regional Technical High School's new building project is moving forward. Could a return to native landscaping help solve Cape Cod's water quality issues? Students studying the issue made presentations in Osterville. And a first-of-its-kind community policing forum is taking place this weekend at Cape Cod Community College. These stories and more, this is Cape Media News. This is Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast for Cape Cod, focusing on the towns of Barnstable, Yarmouth, Dennis, Harwich, and Chatham. Here at the Cape Cod Community Media Center, our goal is to build community through media, enhance democratic communication, and facilitate free expression by providing our 5 towns with a state-of-the-art media resource center. Stop by and visit us anytime at 17 Shadhole Road in Dennisport. Cape Cod Regional Technical High School is moving forward with its planned new building project. Voters in 12 Cape towns hit the polls Tuesday and overwhelmingly said yes to spending $128 million to build a new school. The project has been in the works for many years. Cape Tech provides a vocational technical education for Cape Cod students and readies many directly for the local workforce. The project now enters final design phase. The new building will be constructed on the school's Pleasant Lake Avenue campus in Harwich. Yarmouth Police welcomes 2 new officers and celebrates the promotion of 3 veteran officers. Patrol Officer Matthew Mungano and Patrol Officer Ryan Murphy are the newest members of the force. Both are graduates of the Municipal Police Training Academy at New Braintree. 17-year veteran Andrew O'Malley was promoted to lieutenant. 20-year veteran George Sakalas was promoted to sergeant. And 5-year Yarmouth Police veteran Brian Carcetti, who also spent 5 years serving the town of Orleans, was promoted to sergeant. All 3 are part of the Cape Cod Regional SWAT team. Congratulations to the new and newly promoted officers. Our uniformed officers work hard every day to ensure a safe and healthy community. Meanwhile, Yarmouth Police continue to look for a man with a long history of violent crime who failed to show up after a court date following his arrest for cocaine distribution in Hyannis earlier this month. Rashaad Copper was arrested October 12th. He was charged with cocaine distribution and released after posting $2,000 bail. He then failed to show up in court for his arraignment. He's now wanted by Yarmouth Police. Copper is a convicted felon with a long and violent record, including drug distribution and other violent crimes. His record includes a murder in Pennsylvania. Police say Copper should be considered dangerous. He's 34 years old, 5 feet 10 inches tall, 145 pounds. He has a tattoo on his right forearm. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Yarmouth Police. Congressman Bill Keating is continuing his work on Capitol Hill to combat the growing opioid crisis. This month, the congressman introduced the Effective Opioid Enforcement Act of 2017, a plan to repeal the 2016 law that compromised the ability of the DEA to swiftly act to combat unsafe opioid distribution. Keating is also a co-leader of a bipartisan group of 6 members who this month introduced legislation titled Restoring Enforcement Standards to Track Opioids Responsibly and Effectively. Keating says we can draw a direct line between oversupply of prescription opioids and the tragic epidemic we find ourselves fighting today, an epidemic that has dealt crushing blows to so many families. President Trump, by the way, declared the crisis a national emergency just this week. Up next, Chatham Police met with the community in an effort to improve communication.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing.
I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels.
After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak.
Meals on Wheels coming to my door as someone who's housebound, having someone check on me, assures me that I'm not forgotten.
Meals on Wheels has given me a mode of freedom that I wouldn't have otherwise.
We're the clients.
We are the clients.
We are the clients of Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Tensions remain high across the nation, and local law enforcement officials are working to ensure the local lines of communication remain open. Chatham Police invited the community to gather for a discussion on community policing and race relations. Our friend and Cape Media News correspondent Jonathan Thompson was a speaker at the panel held at St. Christopher's Church on Main Street in Chatham. He files this report.
What's going on? This is JT watching the Chronicles. Introduce yourself, gentlemen.
Tony Morrison, principal of DY, home of the Mike Team, Mighty Dolphin.
Mark Paulina, police chief in Chatham.
Paul Thompson, Barnstable County Human Rights Commissioner.
All right. And tell me, what were we doing tonight?
We're having a really good discussion, a good, honest discussion about racism, about policing, about community, and
Communication.
And people said a lot of good things from the heart. Things that needed to be said.
Right, it was good. And like, the only problem is I wish we had more time. And I wish we had more people. We had a good turnout, but we need people like you, and we need the younger people. And some of you parents that are at home also, it stems from you too. So whatever your issues might have been before, we don't want to carry those over to the kids. We want to better our kids, better our community, better our families, better our lives. And it starts at home also, so they need to constantly hear that. We're going to do our part. Everybody here is going to do their part. So we'll reach out. We'll have more going on, and we want you guys to be a part of that. So
don't be silent.
No,
involved.
Don't.
Speak up.
Thank you.
That's what it is. One love, one family, one community, man. Love you guys.
One love.
Peace.
And we go out of our way to interact with them, talk with them. We do a lot about safety lately, but we also talk about other things as far as mentoring and being there for them, and the trust factor that you talked about, and the looking up to. And at the elementary school, that's very, very successful. We have a very good relationship with our schools, and at the high school as well. We're a regional district, so there's a Harwich officer because the high school is in Harwich that handles the high school, and I pop in from time to time, but most of my school interaction is at the middle school and the elementary school.
I got to teach down at Prairie View A&M. If you know Texas A&M, and I'm a Texas A&M fan, Prairie View A&M was where the people of color could go to college. And that's all they did. And my mother was a student teacher there. That's how they met. My mother could not foresee bringing up her children in an area where you had to wash your clothes. If you were black, you washed them in this place. If you were white, you washed them in this place. When you died, you would be buried with people of color. If you were white, you would be buried with the white folk. My point is, a lot of people sacrificed and gave a lot so that we could be here. The opportunity. My father would always say, you have one strike against you. You know that. You do. I'm sorry. You do. But you put your best foot forward, be as respectful as you can, and hopefully opportunities will open for you. Well, I gotta tell you, I've been blessed, and I know I have, because I have had numerous opportunities. I stand here before you to tell you thank you. But we, as people, all we have are each other. And to continue to grow and move forward. One of the things that JT said about the police officer meeting with the younger people, have to. Because a lot of the young kids don't know. They have no idea what it's like if you're going to drink at this fountain, and my white brother is drinking from this one. They have no idea. If you've lived that, you embrace that. And I know there are people here that have. I know. I see it in your eyes. So let us not forget how far we've come, but bring it back together and continue to move forward. I just had to say that.
And this Saturday, the entire Cape community will come together to talk about relations between police and residents. Local law enforcement, the faith community, and human rights advocates will gather Saturday for a day-long forum addressing some of the top issues on the Cape. The Reverend Wesley Williams of the Martin Luther King Action Team tells us the Cape has some urban qualities and urban issues that must be dealt with head-on. Williams says building strong relationships is the key to good community relations. Issues like race relations, homelessness, mental health, the opioid issue will all be discussed. The forum runs from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday at Cape Cod Community College in West Barnstable. Up next, landscape architect students imagine solutions for water quality concerns in Barnstable.
Listen. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listened.
Cape Cod's fragile environment is being threatened by excessive nitrogen, choking our bays and estuaries. It's one of the biggest issues facing Cape Cod right now and has been for years. While high-level officials work on ways to better deal with wastewater, one landscape architect professor is hoping suggestions from students might spur changes in the way we landscape our yards and lawns. Students created an idea palette and then presented their findings to the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition in Osterville.
You know, listen, I'm so excited to see what the students have come up with. And the interesting conversation in talking to people is, gee, they don't know what they can't do. And that's just so exciting, I think, because it's so easy to think of, well, the answer is no. You can't do this, you can't change that, this is the way it's always been. And I think it's great to see young people say, well, what if?
I learned about some ongoing efforts here in the project called Cleaning Up the Bays, that a number of the partners that are here tonight are part of, the APCC, the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition, the Land Trust, and Horsley Witten Group. And because I'm a local resident, I was interested in this. I was pleased to learn of what was going on, and I saw an opportunity to complement this work with some landscape architecture perspectives. We understand environmental issues, and we are in the business of proposing solutions that are physical solutions, moving the earth around, changing the drainage, and adding plants to create landscapes. In this case, landscapes that function to clean water, provide wildlife habitat, and address this major problem of water quality contamination.
And I worked on a conceptual plan for placement of dredging materials in the event that the mill pond were to be dredged. So there's a lot of different things you can do with dredge materials once they've been removed. And so I looked at a couple different possibilities. The one that is represented in these images is using the dredge material to restore Cape Cod native landscapes, including a freshwater marsh and a wet meadow, as well as pitch pine forest. But then there's also proposals for using the dredge material as topsoil and sort of bringing it out and using it as topsoil elsewhere. But other of the bogs are going to be transformed into native wetland types, including shrub wetland, red maple swamp, Atlantic white cedar swamp, and Martian wet meadow. The variety of habitats gives ecological diversity and provides a habitat for many rare and threatened species. And then the Atlantic white cedar swamps in particular could be a productive landscape. They could be harvested for timber, but they also provide the anaerobic bog conditions in the soil that are particularly useful for denitrification of the water, so it could impact the water quality for all the rest of the watershed. And because this cranberry bog is located in the headwaters of the Marston's Mill River, really keeping track of the inputs and outputs here and maintaining water quality can have a direct impact on all the rest of the habitat that's downstream.
What I noticed is that a lot of properties have narrow waterfront buffers, and generally in areas where there are woodland patches or tree groves often planted for privacy, that otherwise they are small. They have less forest interior than they do edge, and largely they're dominated by a series of non-native invasive species. And where there are expansive lawns, there are opportunities to kind of narrow them a little, still keeping the aesthetic and functionality of lawn space, but where possible, along larger properties, try to reduce that edge and build that edge up with a broader suite of native species to help promote more biodiversity, connect habitat, be kind of a corridor connector, and then as well the use of more native plants, particularly warm season grasses and herbaceous perennial species, have a deeper root system than their non-native counterparts. And so deeper roots are able to go down and help filter more sediment, filter more nutrients out of the system.
There's many reasons to support native landscapes on the Cape. First of all, because they're native, by definition, they're adapted to the conditions that are found here. They grew here before people came with no assistance from people. Therefore, they don't need extra inputs of water, no irrigation, no fertilizer, and no pesticides. In addition, these native species provide habitat and forage for native flora, the insects and birds and mammals. So they're part of local food chains, they're part of pollinator relationships, and they provide all of these benefits that we tend to be missing with a lot of exotic plants.
Sandy Neck Beach Park measures 6 miles as it extends into Cape Cod Bay and as a barrier beach provides protection for Barnstable Harbor and the north side of town. The park's 4,700 acres include beautiful sandy dunes, maritime forest, marsh, horse trails, cranberry bogs, and salt-sprayed cottages dotting the tip of the spit, cottages that have been in place since the late 1800s. Beachgoers, hikers, equestrians, fishermen, and nature enthusiasts share this precious natural resource with an abundance of wildlife. Coyotes, shorebirds, and even the occasional snowy owl call Sandy Neck home. Nestled halfway down the marsh trail sits a small research cottage owned by the town of Barnstable and called the Halfway House because of its location. The cottage is primarily a research headquarters for students studying environment, ornithology, and marine biology. But through the Art Meets Nature program offered by the town of Barnstable, artists can spend a day immersed in the tranquil beauty of the dunes. 9 Cape Cod artists led by painter Betsy Payne Cook recently spent time at the cottage. Their work reflects the time the artists spent at Sandy Neck and is on display now at Barnstable Town Hall. The public is invited to attend a special artist reception on Wednesday, November 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Barnstable Town Hall. Works are on display now through November 30th in both the hearing room and Selectmen's Conference Room on the second floor of Barnstable Town Hall, located at 367 Main Street in Hyannis. The Town of Barnstable Artwork on Loan program is an opportunity for artists to display work at Town Hall. Some artists have never before displayed their work in a public setting, and this is a chance for them to learn how to frame and present their work and have it seen by so many who pass through Town Hall each day. You can see the artwork on display again in the Selectmen's Conference Room and the Town Hall Hearing Room on the second floor of Barnstable Town Hall on Main Street in Hyannis now through November 15th. Well, thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Cape Media News. Next week, we'll explore the issue of housing, jobs, and the economy here on Cape Cod. We'll also bring you footage from tomorrow's forum being held at Cape Cod Community College. Do you have a news tip or idea? You can email me at news@capemedia.org. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin.